So welcome back to Nicks and Becks. Is the truth really out there? So the first video we're going to do is where should your hands be when you ride? The reason why I'm doing this video is to clear up a few points for people, as this is the purpose of these videos. And also, as soon as I posted that video of coaching that lady on her newly backed horse, I got a question of a customer asking, where should your hands be? Why was why was I telling that lady to put her hands up or wherever? Okay, so we're going, yes, I was telling her to bring to the hip and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through this. So first of all, young horse. Again, there's so many platforms and it changes in different situations. On a young horse, or actually, let's start on a finish horse. So if you're going to ride finish horse, the way your arm should be, obviously we've got this tailored up like this at the moment. So imagine where these clips are is the bit, all right? So, because they would be clipped onto the bit. So your hand should be in line, your reins, and from the bit down to through the rein, to your wrist, to your elbow, should be a straight line. Okay, to the bit, through the rein. So this should be a straight line, straightish line, okay? But obviously it's going to move with the horse and trot it like that. So when you're taught at the riding schools, it's going to be like this. You're going to tell you to be like this. Because basically when you do relax, then you will relax in the same position, all right? So why I was telling this lady to I told her to keep her hands hip height, which is about here, okay? And I actually told her hands up higher, a bit like this, because what she was originally doing was coming down like this and doing this with her wrist, okay? So she was like doing something weird, which I see a lot of English riders do. So first of all, they're dropping below the hip, almost between, in the middle of the thigh to the knee, and then they're doing this with their wrist, okay? All right? So the reason why I don't like this is, as you can see, my shoulder already drops and my body goes into this position, all right? So very vulnerable. If your shoulder's dropped, you've off-balanced yourself. If anything happens quickly with the horse, that's where you're going to end up. Okay, because your centre of gravity is literally there. Look how I am on the horse. I've got to grip my legs. So basically what I was doing, because she had a bad habit, was I was exaggerating and telling her to keep her hands up. But what I was telling her on the video was hand to the hip. But she was then doing this up to almost the boob, if you like. So, but what will happen if I get that idea in her head that she has to go a bit higher than she's used to, when she relaxes, she'll be in the correct position, okay?
Sense.
Because I didn't want to just say, oh, lift it a couple of inches, otherwise it's far too tempting because it's so close to this habit area she had of doing this, okay? So for me on that video, just explaining that, I want her to be riding almost like this, because again, if we lift up, our shoulders are coming back, our shoulders up. So I didn't want her dropping her shoulders and turning her horse like this, because then she's much more in a vulnerable position to come off because she's off balancing herself. So that's first things first on that video, why I was telling her to almost ride like a puppet up here, because then she's going to keep her shoulders up, okay? So that answered that question. And going on to different parts. So if you're going to bend the horse, because on that video I told her, bring the hand out and to the hip. So you need to bring the hand out to tip the nose to then bring it into the hip. If you try and disunite the hind or turn sharply on a baby horse like you would a finished horse, which would be like this, the bridle's coming up with me, okay? So if your hands were like this, it's too refined motion for a young horse to understand, okay? Because they have to learn to follow the rein and follow the nose first. So on a baby horse, you have your hand out. And again, another question the same lady asked me was like, I've been told to put my hand down. And that exactly is the answer that I gave in the first question, is if you're coming down here, look what you're doing. You're off balancing yourself and off balancing the horse. Especially a young horse, you need to be balanced and straight in the saddle and not doing too much of this movement, because they are just getting used to balance a rider and balancing themselves. They don't need you doing this in the saddle and then having to compensate with your weight, okay? So you need to be very still and balanced on a young horse and very clear with your cues. So this is why I was telling her to bring a hand out to bend the nose, then into the hip. Otherwise, this is more of a backup On a baby horse, the pressure is coming back straight at them otherwise. And again, it's too much of a refined cue because they have only ABCs to work on at that time. Does that make sense, Beth, to you?
Yeah, I personally, from what I know about like lowering the hands, is what I've been taught is to try and get the horse into an outline.
Right, okay.
I don't know whether you've heard of that.
Right, yes. So again, playing with the hands down like this is, what am I doing with my shoulders? What am I doing? So I'm putting more weight on the horse's forehand, which is not going to help it. So again, even if you raise your hands up, what you're doing, you're lifting the horse up. Otherwise, if you're doing this, you're pulling him on his front end, and you're also adding extra weight because look what's happening to my body. Okay?
Yeah, you're tipping
I'm
forward.
tipping forward. That is why all the dressage riders, ride with their core engaged in their back, and they're much in an upper. Even if you watch the Spanish riders, the old bull riding videos, all the Spanish riders are almost not tipped back, but they're very straight, but all their weight is on their hind, okay, not on the front end. And look what's happening when we do this. Look at my body. My shoulders physically have to go down
To be able to get you.
to be able to do that. And look what happened. I'm tipping onto the front end.
So I'm just going to jump in.
Go.
You say about we want the horse to follow his nose, like a young horse we're talking about. So why is that? Why are we asking them to follow the nose?
Because that's where their body will follow.
Okay.
So the horse follows his nose.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, and that is very simple for a baby horse, okay? Because a baby horse does not know how to move the shoulder, how to move the hind, how to move the rib cage. He only knows open door, go forward, and even it gets very messy with two rein start, a stop like this, like we're all taught. If you start doing too much pulling, again, it's too much pressure for a young horse. So this is why in more Western, it isn't really covered in the English world, because I find that the English world bypasses all this foundation, all right? So in the Western world, we're almost told if you're going to ride in a snaffle, you ride with one rein at a time. And that's again where your one rein stop comes. Okay. With a baby horse, you're going to teach it from when you backed to bend to a stop. Okay. All right? Because what we don't want to do is ruin. We don't want to put a block in that horse's mouth because they're learning stuff. They're green. We don't never want them to learn to run through that hand pressure or start worrying or create any anxiety by pulling on two reins. You should never pull on two reins. Even in the old English foundation of the dressage, it's driving them through. It's driving them with the leg, with the forward to create the outline. And again, really good question there. People think it's all about fiddling with that head. If you leave that head and ride the body, then your outline will magically come on its own. Right. But only if you're not using that bit as a block, all right? Okay. And again, just a simple question that lady asked me about why your hands here, why you telling to do this and why that, is simple question, complex answers, all right? So basically, yes, we want them to follow the nose. It's much easier if you come out. Again, we should have established that in our groundwork with the lead rope. Right, how we bring it out.
That's a different video.
It is a different video, but again, it just goes to that first level of foundation where we're always training on the ground before we even get to the saddle.
So you're saying that like the first couple of steps on your horse, you want to be doing the one rein stop, getting them to bend to a stop. That is the first, one of the first things that you teach them in the saddle.
Yes, exactly, because and we do it from the ground first. So we don't just get on and then expect them to bend. We do it from the ground first. Again, that's your good groundwork coming in. Again, people bypass the groundwork and then it's much more complicated in the saddle if the groundwork isn't there.
Yeah, we are going to touch on the groundwork as well.
Yes, we are.
Because I think that's something that's really important. And again, English, it seems to be bypassed.
Totally.
Quite, significantly.
Massively. Okay, that's good. But again, it can be another video. We can go as complex or as simple as we like. The horse should have an open door when it goes through with our legs. Open door, not pulling on it. We don't want to use the brake and the accelerator at the time. Again, it's confusing for young horses. And we don't want to dull out and make a block for the horse mentally with the bit. Pulling should not be involved in riding, okay? But again, is how people have been taught, and why. The question is why is this not been taught to people, okay? So I hope that answers that in that video.
It was good.